And we're off. Hey, everyone. Welcome. February 3rd. That sounds not for a Freudian slip to start off the show. Nice. February 3rd, 2025. All Dolphins podcast off to a flying start. Hopefully, Chris Perkins is going to help me make it better as it moves along. How are you, Perk?
Let's do it, baby. I got Marcus Mariota and Noah Lyles on my mind today. How about that?
How about Myles Garrett?
And Myles Garrett. That's right. That's right. And Myles Garrett. Yeah.
Okay.
The league that never sleeps.
I want to start with Myles Garrett because I just wrote something on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Basically, my premise is there's zero reason logistically to think the Dolphins are going to get involved in it if the Browns eventually decide to acquiesce. And yet it's the Dolphins, so we should never say never.
Yes, they are in for any big deal that they can get in the Mike McDaniel era. And look, I think the edge rushers are, let's see, I don't want to say the least of their problems right now because we don't know. And I don't expect that both Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are going to reach 100% this season. I've said that before. I think it's probably more realistic that both of them reach like maybe 80%. Maybe one of them reaches 90%. I don't think maybe neither reaches 100%. You do have Chop Robinson there. You do have Mo Kamara. We'll see what happens with Agba. So you could be okay at that position, but it's one of those positions where you can never have too much. And that's how I feel about edge rusher and cornerback and maybe wide receiver, but definitely edge rusher and cornerback. To me, you can never have too much within reason. I would stick my toe in the water if I'm the Dolphins. But as Dave Hyde always says, somebody's got to look out for the organization. So let's not go crazy and give a bunch of draft picks because we know that Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel need to win this year, but do not allow them to mortgage the future so that they can keep their jobs for the 2025 season or beyond the 2025 season.
Who's going to stop them? I mean, it's
Tom Garfinkel has got to stop him. He's the man above Chris Grier. It's Tom Garfinkel and Steve Ross, and one or both. And we know it's got to be Garfinkel because Ross is doing other things. He's got to be the one. He's got to be the one to watch the store, to mind the organization.
Okay, here's the thing: is I agree with you that if everything works out well, because you mentioned a lot of names, the Dolphins have very good potential at the edge rusher position. However, as you also point out, Bradley Chubb's coming off a torn ACL that kept him from playing the entire 2024 season. Jalen Phillips, who we all know and love, tore an Achilles in 2023, tore an ACL in 2024. Chop Robinson was very good as a pass rusher in the second half of the season. Mohamed Kamara is a projection because he never saw the field in 2024, and Emmanuel Ogba was a free agent. And the bottom line also is none of them are Myles Garrett.
Yes.
Myles Garrett is a difference maker, is a game changer. So again, and as you mentioned, the Dolphins do need to win big, as in make the playoffs, maybe even win a playoff game. So I think the idea that the Dolphins wouldn't get involved if the Cleveland Browns decide they're open for business on the Myles Garrett front, I think that's crazy to think the Dolphins wouldn't even consider it. And I think they should at the very least see what the asking price is going to be.
Definitely, Myles Garrett is a first ballot Hall of Famer. What would the price be though? If I'm Cleveland, I've got to get some sort of difference maker in 2025. And if you're the Dolphins, are you giving up Cater Kohu or Jalen Ramsey or Jonnu Smith? I'm just throwing out names. I don't know who Cleveland would want. Austin Jackson. I would definitely listen though if I'm the Dolphins. I actually haven't even thought about what Cleveland might want, what Cleveland needs. We know Tua would be off the table. You assume Tyreek would be off the table. Because if you don't have Tyreek, to me, this offense is just you're back to ground zero. If they wanted some package, including Jalen Waddle, yeah, definitely, 100%. But Tyreek and Tua, Jalen Ramsey, they're probably all untouchable because you just need them to win in 2025. I don't see any way you're going to the playoffs without any of those three, even if you do have Myles Garrett on your roster.
I don't know if I want to go there at this particular point. I have to give it some thought because I'm not. Again, it depends who else you could get at quarterback. As I prepare to go like this because the shots are coming. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm ready to say that. Yeah, if it's Tua or Skylar Thompson, yeah, Dolphins have no shot without Tua.
Right.
Absolutely. But there could be other quarterbacks available. I mean, understand.
Well, see, but no, I know. But now you're bringing in.
The other part of it also is both those guys have huge contracts that I don't know that Cleveland would want. Does Cleveland want $50 million of Tua for the next 2 years? Do they want Tyreek Hill in his contract? Especially when they have Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver. Do they want Jalen Ramsey? Maybe. Although something tells me Jalen Ramsey would want no part of going to Cleveland.
I don't think that he would. I don't think that he would. That probably wouldn't be good for his brand. I'm just guessing. It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt LeBron too much, but that's a different level we're talking about right there. And so the other thing would be, and we're going way off the reservation here. If Tua wasn't involved, who would Mike McDaniel want in his system? Who could work as a quarterback? Who could work in the Mike McDaniel system? I know that's going way off the reservation and getting way ahead of things. But
here's the thing: do we honestly think that Mike McDaniel can only operate one type of passing game? That maybe he saw, okay, what works best with Tua and the offensive line I have in place, and the wide receivers that I have who can get open quickly or could get open quickly in 2022, 2023, quick passing like that. You adapt your scheme to the personnel.
Yes, no, obviously Mike McDaniel has the knowledge to pivot. I just haven't seen any willingness to change from the current offense. He did get the receiving tight end that he needed. He tried to get the slot receiver with OBJ, but he hasn't gotten the power runner yet. He hasn't gotten the backup quarterback yet. He's been slow to check, and he hasn't really gotten off of the deep pass to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle until he was forced to do it when Tua went down and came back, and that system wasn't working. Mike McDaniel has not been ahead of the curve in making changes. He's kind of stayed there or been behind the curve. Opposing defenses have passed this offense, right? I think we can say that this offense needs a tweak. You can't come back doing the same thing you did in 2022 and 2023 in 2025. And I'll tell you this also, and I've written this, that I know. In the last 2 years against playoff teams, neither Tyreek nor Jalen Waddle has a 100-yard receiving game. Now, Tyreek had 99 against Dallas, but that tells me that the good teams are unto you. You need a running game. You need a receiving tight end, a slot receiver. You need to do something to get them to relieve that pressure on those guys.
No, correct. But there's a personnel issue at play here as well. And again, to me, nobody was complaining when they were doing this and it was working well in 2022 and 2023. There are personnel deficiencies.
I was saying that this offense is about two things: Tyreek Hill and the threat of Tyreek Hill. It is.
I want $1 every time you say that. I want $1 every time you say that. I'll be rich.
I'm just saying that will tell you. I've been saying this since 2022, even when good times. Yes.
Yes, you have been saying it.
Getting people to roll their eyes every time I say it, just like you did.
So the other part of it too, going back to the Myles Garrett thing, is technically the Dolphins would want maybe to include in any trade one of their edge defenders, because at some point they would have too many. Bradley Chubb's not tradable because of his contract. Cleveland wouldn't want that financial commitment. So then it would be either Chop or Jalen Phillips. And I wrote about Jalen Phillips again on the website. Please check out the website, gang. Love that you're listening to the podcast. Much appreciated. And please share and like. Also, check out the website. Free content. Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And I wrote about Jalen Phillips, partly about his recovery, which, based on the latest video, looks like it's coming along swimmingly. Not a shocker because the dude's a worker. But the other part is he's got a kind of a sticky contract situation where the Dolphins have a decision to make. He's on the fifth-year option for 2025 with a cap number of $13.3 million. Do we want to extend them immediately to lower his cap number, but then you're committing for more years before seeing whether he can bounce back? Because again, we're not talking about one, we're talking about two major season-ending injuries, and the reality of it is you actually kind of need to see him in action, don't you, before you commit long term?
Correct. 100. You're 100% correct. There have been times where I've criticized the Dolphins for not being proactive. Christian Wilkins, Rob Hunt. This time you have to wait and see. Javon Holland, they chose to wait and see. I think that was the correct decision. Jalen Phillips, because of his injury history, you've got to wait and see. You cannot commit money to Jalen Phillips, as good a player as he is, as nice a guy as he is, because of his injury history. It would be irresponsible financially to commit money to Jalen Phillips, not knowing about his health and in light of the last two seasons. So, yeah, you've got to wait. And if you end up getting burned, then you happily, overpay him for what he's done. But you've got to wait. You just don't know what his long-term health situation is going to be.
Okay, let's move on for the whole Myles Garrett and the sidebars there. But it's certainly a situation to keep an eye on. Marcus Mariota, who you mentioned before, Adam Schefter was on the Pat McAfee show, mentioned that Marcus Mariota would be a logical option for the Las Vegas Raiders, who hired Chip Kelly and not Darrell Bevell to be their offensive coordinator. Mariota played for Kelly at Oregon in 2011 and 2012. Raiders have no quarterback because their two guys last year were Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Mariota is a free agent. Something there. Schefter also mentioned the Dolphins has another team that will be interested in Marcus Mariota. I don't want to say no duh, but this is a name that I've thrown out on this podcast quite a bit. He's a guy who fits the mold, and I know some folks are hitting me up on Twitter. Well, he doesn't fit the system. Does Tyler Huntley really fit the system? And did Tyler Huntley not have a good game against Cleveland? Again, there are tweaks to be made when you have a different quarterback, especially if it's going to be for a long period of time. It doesn't have to be exactly what Tua runs, who has a skill set that's different than Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota also can gain some yardage with his feet, scrambling more so than Tua can. To hold down the fourth for 4 games, that would have been the case this year. He's perfectly fine. He balled out with Washington in his 3 relief appearances. His salary last year was $6 million, which is not crazy money for a backup quarterback. And he's friends with Tua because they're both from Hawaii.
He'd be one of my top choices to be the Dolphins' backup quarterback for all those reasons that you just listed. And look, it is on Mike McDaniel. Let me be very clear here. When the backup quarterback doesn't perform well, it has usually been on Mike McDaniel because, and this is outside of injuries, because they're playing in the Tua system. I'm not sure that Skyler had a system designed for him. I'm not sure Teddy Bridgewater did. That it wasn't until Snoop's second time, when he came back from the injury, that it appeared that the offense was more designed for him. Every other backup quarterback, it seemed that they've run a system designed more for Tua and that they've been shoehorned into. So it's incumbent upon Mike McDaniel to make a backup quarterback-friendly system. And I think you would get much more out of a backup quarterback such as Marcus Mariota, who has starting experience and who could come in there and hold it down for 3 games, 4 games, 5 games. He could keep you at 500, maybe a game above 500, but you got to put him in the right system, a system that fits his skills. you vary your system. You don't totally change your system, but as you say, Poop, you've got to tweak it. You've got to adjust it to his skills. It's kind of why quarterbacks work with receivers, right? Because different receivers run routes differently, and you have to adjust to that. This guy takes his breaks here. This guy does this. You have to adjust to that and get to know that and accommodate that player. Similarly, Mike McDaniel has to do that with his backup quarterbacks.
No, without question. And I'm just going to say it again until I'm blue in the face. I may say it as many times as you're saying that the Dolphin offense was Tyreek and the threat of Tyreek, that the drop-off in the Dolphin offense when Tua went out was ridiculous. I mean, it wasn't – and again, Tua's a good quarterback. It's not like you went from Patrick Mahomes to a high school quarterback. I mean, come on. That was unacceptable. And part of it also, if we're going to be fair, particularly in the Tennessee game, is the rest of the offensive players were booty cheeks.
Yeah.
Had to throw them off for that. During those games, it was like everybody else, you need to elevate your game. The other names, the one guy, if you want to talk about, okay, who could seamlessly fit into the scheme is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes.
And I have no idea why the Dolphins wouldn't make a phone call.
Injury history?
Well, absolutely. It has been suggested that Mike McDaniel's not a big fan of his. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if that's 100% true. I'd have to look into it. Andy Dalton's another one.
Let me ask you this. Would you make a phone call to Ryan Tannehill now that you could have him starting in the whole offseason program, starting when did they report? April 15th? Would you at least make the phone call, or do you think, that's just leave Ryan alone? I would make the phone call. I
would make a phone call. I don't think, and for those, no, I don't think none of us have ever said Ryan Tannehill's a great quarterback. Again, as a backup, he'd be good. That's a good backup. I don't know if you'd have any interest in doing that. A, financially, and then B, knowing you're coming in to back up Tua and you're not seeing the field unless Tua gets hurt. I don't know if that's something you'd want to do.
I'll tell you this, though. I brought this up probably on the show that Ryan Tannehill, both times, he was never brought in as a starter. As a rookie, David Garrard got injured, you remember, in training camp, and then it was between Ryan and Matt Moore, and they said, let's go with the youngster. And then our guy, Marcus Mariota in Tennessee, was the starter. He got injured, and Tannehill took it over and never gave it up. So maybe Tannehill just thinks that put me in there and I'll eventually get the starting job. Who knows what Tannehill thinks? But I would make the phone call. I think it's different now that you could have him for the whole offseason program as opposed to bringing him in like last October or something like that. I think it's a totally different thing. I would make the phone call.
Yeah, and again, because I hear it's coming, no, he's not a great fit for this particular scheme as it's designed for Tua. But this is, again, a case where if Tua goes down and he's going to miss a couple of games, tweak it to fit. It's the essence of good coaching is you fit what you do to the strength of your personnel. Maximize the strengths of the players, minimize their weaknesses. That's kind of okay. Roger Goodell, before we started taping this, had his annual Super Bowl press conference. Discussed a couple of topics and just want to get your thoughts on some of the things he said. Sees no issues whatsoever, basically, with Tom Brady doing the Fox telecasts and operating as a minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders with a big role in terms of what's going on with the team. I don't know about you, but that, to me, it's like, no, I think you should. Sorry, pick one or the other. If you're literally part of a team, of an organization, you should not be calling games. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I think, to me, the big problem there, and I believe that the NFL has addressed it, is the midweek meeting, or I don't know, when do the Friday meeting, whenever the meeting, yeah. Yes, and you go over strategy. You go over stuff with the coaches that you don't necessarily say on the air, but they will tell you a lot of stuff just for background. So you're privy to insider information that Tom Brady could use for insider trading. That's the whole issue here. It's not having Brady sit in the booth. It's having Brady privy to this information that he could then use to enhance the Raiders or, make a deal with another team. So They say now, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've said that Brady leaves the room for part of that talk, or I think they said some accommodation is made. So I know it's a little unsettling. I'm willing to let it ride. I know I'm being reactionary. Until there's a problem, there's not a problem. I'm willing to let it ride. You disagree? You
I
totally
don't know.
disagree with me.
Maybe it's just maybe I'm just jealous of the fact that he can be the part owner of an NFL team and call games for $37 million a year. Yeah. I think maybe I'm just jealous, and I want his gig, but to me he should be forced to do one or the other. But,
well, I would say this: it does seem like so many things are made for Tom Brady, right? From the tuck rule to he gets his knee hurt, then you can't hit quarterbacks below the knee, and now this is kind of an exception. It's a unique situation. But yes, and there are a lot of exceptions made seemingly for Tom Brady. Yes.
Plus, I have inherently a massive, massive, massive problem with anybody getting paid $37 million to be an analyst. I mean, give me a break. Because personally, I would never watch a game because of the analyst. I may mute it if I really don't like the analyst, which is very rare, and I certainly wouldn't name names. But to me, it's absurd. It's to get paid that kind of money.
It is in general. I think that there are certain people where you say, I don't watch the game for the announcer. I don't go to watch the coach. I do think people tune in for Tom Brady, not $37 million worth, but I do. If Deion Sanders was coaching the Dallas Cowboys or probably any team, people would be very interested in his sideline demeanor and antics and leadership. But those are exceptions. I generally agree with what you're saying. There are exceptions. Brady might be a $37 million exception.
Against New York Giants at 4:25 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, just because Brady's calling the game, really?
I think people are interested in hearing what he has to say, his insight, his unique perspective on what a quarterback sees, what a coach thinks, how a championship team is built, how they operate, what should the culture be. To me, those are the things that Brady brings a unique perspective to the viewer that nobody else can bring. But again, $37 million worth? No, but definitely unique perspective that nobody else has.
You mean like how the offense really doesn't want to be in third and long situations?
Yeah, nobody would have ever thought about that. Nobody has said that in the history of the league.
Or how they like their offensive players, they want to get them the ball in space.
You never hear that. You never hear that. You see what that man does.
Yeah, I picked up those gems from him. Okay. Other issues that he brought up. An interesting question: if there's ever been any consideration given to the idea of making flopping or embellishing a penalty, and I, for one, actually, I would kind of like it because, if you've been a follower of the podcast for a long time, you know I'm a big hockey guy as well. And there's something to be said for the NHL embellishment rule. I think it's stupid when they call on certain plays, they will call a tripping penalty an embellishment. And to me, it's like, well, if you're going to call it tripping, so you're judging that there was a tripping. So what, the other guy sold it more, but it was still there. But to me, it's like when Patrick Mahomes against Houston, for example, when he basically got lightly tapped near the sideline, and it's like, oh, let me throw myself on the ground, throw a flag 15 yards on sportsmanlike conduct. I'm sorry.
I have a bigger problem with the quarterbacks who pretend like they're going to slide and then they get a couple extra yards, because the ripple effect of that puts the defender in a bad position for the rest of the game, the rest of the season. I have a huge problem with that. The other stuff I don't really have a big problem with. If you're the guy who, you smack somebody in the face and he smacks you back and you embellish and the ref sees it, you're trying to gain an advantage. It's kind of like the guy.
Liam Eichenberg.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's kind of like the guy who, in basketball, if you touch the ball, you were the last one to touch it, and it goes out, and you claim it's your team's ball. I don't have a problem with that. but it's the quarterback thing of pretending to go down and then you gain a couple of more extra yards. That I think is unsportsmanlike conduct, and there should be a heavy fine or a penalty for that, just because of the ramifications of later on, that you're setting a bad precedent. You're putting the defender in a very, very bad spot, knowing how, unprotected runner, ball carrier, quarterbacks, all of that stuff is.
Completely agree. Goodell also was asked about whether there is anything to the idea that the Chiefs are being favored, and shockingly, he said that's completely ridiculous. However, here's what I would say about it. And by the way, do you see was it Terrell Owens who basically was saying the league is rigged? I believe it was Terrell Owens who basically was flat out saying the league is rigged for the Chiefs. Like, well, no, I'm not buying that. Here's the thing. It can be both that no, the league is not fixing it for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs also get a disproportionate amount of critical calls compared to other teams. It can be both while not necessarily being conscious. Here's what happens, and you're a basketball dude. You're going to tell me Michael Jordan didn't get the benefit of the calls a lot of times just because he was Michael Jordan? And I think we saw that happen with the New England Patriots, and we're seeing it happen with the KC Chiefs. It's a really, really good team, and I don't know if it's subconsciously the official tend to the Chiefs, so they must be on the other team. I think there's something there without, again, going as far as to suggest that the league is trying to make him win.
No, I think you're completely correct. And here's how I choose to look at it is that, the Terrell Owens thing is just absolutely ridiculous. Here's the deal. You don't have to tell the refs, give Patrick Mahomes these calls. Patrick Mahomes has kind of earned the benefit of the doubt through his play. Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, Ohtani, he's going to get some strike calls as a pitcher, and he's going to get some ball calls as a batter, because you have earned the benefit of the doubt. Yes, sometimes officials go overboard, but there's nothing spoken to get to Terrell Owens' thing. If you work for CNN, people aren't going around saying, "Remember, we're against Trump. Remember that." When you work for Fox, right? People don't say, "Remember, we like Trump. Don't say anything bad about Trump." People know that. People aren't idiots. And so if you're an official, yes, you're aware that Kansas City has been to, 5 Super Bowls or whatever it is, and the last 7 AFC championships. You know who Patrick Mahomes is, and Kelsey and everybody like that, Andy Reid. You're not oblivious. Human nature kind of steers you in the direction that if it's close, I'm going to give it to the superstar. It's not because my job depends on it or I want Kansas City to win. It's like I've seen this dude do this numerous times. He was probably correct. I'll give the benefit of the doubt to him. And that's kind of the way every sport is played, whether you're Messi or Ronaldo or whoever, right? I mean, I'm not the conspiracy theorist. I look at it kind of as a human nature thing, that these people aren't idiots, right? It's human nature. If you're a sports fan, you kind of lean in that direction.
No, that's fair. Again, to me, my wish, and I put this out on Twitter before the first of the 2 conference championship games, is I was really hoping that we wouldn't have to discuss the officiating, would not be even remotely an issue in any of the games. And of course it happened. And it can be 2 things that the Chiefs deserve to win regardless. But at the same time, you can't pretend that spot on the fourth and 1 sneak wasn't huge. I mean, that's just a big point. And speaking of that spot, and there was another one, actually, a couple of other ones that were kind of like really dubious. And Roger Goodell was asked about the idea of using technology as opposed to the old chains. And if you saw by his answer, it's kind of like, don't hold your breath. I mean, that it's, we're looking into it, but it's complicated because of the shape of the ball, and then you got bodies in between. And my takeaway from his answer was, don't hold your breath. It's not happening anytime soon.
And that was my takeaway. I don't understand that answer. I just don't. When, like, look at technology. I mean, AI is going to be running the world in about 3 weeks. I mean, come on, like how can this not be possible? I did see that. What sport was it? One of the soccer leagues is going away from the VAR replay system that I thought worked real well. It's not like La Liga or Bundesliga or one of the big ones, but I saw that a couple of weeks ago that there was some nation was protesting, and so they're going to dump the video review system. But I think most of the video review systems at tennis works excellent, as you probably know. It's like magic, right? Quick. I thought soccer's was pretty good. I think most of the replay systems, the technology, I think is pretty good. Its application might be flawed, but I think the technology is good. I don't know why the NFL can't find this technology. Like, that's what I don't understand. You're talking bodies in the way and the ball is oblong. Screw all that. We're flying jets. Like, come on. Like, we've had some great technology. We're sending people to the moon. Like, what in the world is so hard about detecting a first down? I don't get it.
No, I hear you. And then the other thing that Goodell talked about or was asked about was the idea of the 18 games. He said he's had informal conversations with the head of the NFLPA, that it would be done in the course of the collective bargaining agreement, which isn't up until 2030. Chances are it's going to happen before then. I think it's pretty much inevitable. I'm not the one who plays, but as somebody who covers the NFL, I would certainly prefer more 18 regular season games and 2 preseason games as opposed to 17 and 3, personally.
Me too. I like meaningful football, but the players and their bodies, man. You're just taxing these guys so much. From the NFL standpoint, they'll just throw more money into the pot, right? You just say salaries are going to increase, the TV revenue is going to increase. We'll give you more money, and everything will be everything. But man, 18 games, that is, boy, I mean 16 games is brutal on the human body, but 18, man, you're just.
Dude, they do 18 in the CFL, my man.
Yeah, that's
there you go.
Boy, that's yeah.
Goodell, last thing with Goodell, he also mentioned that I think he's mentioned ideally you'd want to be up to 16 international games, hoping to get to 8 this year. I think there have been, the 3 London games have been announced. Obviously, the Dolphins playing home game in Spain. I have seen somewhere speculation that it's going to be against Cincinnati as the visiting team. That is just, again, this is people throwing stuff out there. I don't know how reliable that is, but just that it's out there. Lastly, I'm going to give you the floor on this one. Perk, you wrote something on sunsentinel.com, I believe. And again, I want folks to go ahead and check it out as well. So without giving away all of it, but as a teaser, I believe it was something like what you wanted to see the Dolphins do with their first pick in the 2025 draft after attending the season.
Yeah, I did. And let me say this. The international stuff, I like the international. I wouldn't mind having a franchise located internationally, whether it's Mexico, Canada, even over in Europe. The Europe thing is just kind of, how do you replenish players? How do you get players over there for the Tuesday tryout? But aside from that, I love spreading the game internationally. I love that idea. And then
quickly, but who's going to want to play? If there's a team like in London, how many players are really going to want to go play in London where they kind of have to stay there the whole regular season?
Oh, I don't think that would be a problem at all. To me, because you're playing in the NFL. There still aren't that many opportunities. You're still getting paid good money. Maybe you even get paid in pounds over there if you're playing in London, or euros if you're getting paid but I guess you would probably still get the same amount. I don't think the owners are stupid enough to know that you can get more money in pounds than U.S. dollars. I think they probably figured that out. But no, I love spreading the game internationally. I think that would be a huge thing. As far as what I would like to see the Dolphins do in the first round of the draft, they're not going to get their backup quarterback at number 13. Maybe you get them later. I don't favor that. I favor a veteran backup, but that's off the table. guards, very much possible. A safety, very much possible. I still have Ashton Genty. I mentioned his name up there because, look, you need a running back. You need a somebody who's going to be a workhorse running back. I know Devon Achane is a good change of pace guy, but
Jalen Wright?
not,
No.
what's that?
Jalen Wright? No.
No. I didn't see enough from him last year. I couldn't go into the season thinking that he's the number one. There's a couple of, safety. You could, or 1A, I would say, even for Jalen Wright. I would feel more comfortable getting somebody that I feel better about their muscle, their durability. Again, with this running game, Poop, they're deficient on third down, short yardage, red zone, goal line. So, and running between the tackles. So I would like to address those shortcomings. The safety position, I could see the safety, either Malachi Starks from Georgia or Nick, I don't know his last name, from South Carolina.
Go ahead. Nick from South Carolina.
I have no idea how to pronounce that man's name. I apologize. But there are guys at guard, maybe Tyler Booker from Alabama, maybe the Armand Mimbo guy from Missouri who can play guard and tackle. So there are some guys in there right now that I could see the Dolphins taking at number 13. From the Senior Bowl, I don't think the number 13 pick was at the Senior Bowl. Walter Nolan, however, the interior defensive lineman from Ole Miss, did show some decent stuff. But, look, we've still got the combine. We've still got pro days. We've still got 30 visits, which, and for those who don't know, that term, but teams can invite 30 players to their facility for an in-face visit before the draft, and they call them 30 visits. So you still got 30 of those visits also. My thinking will probably change, but the position, the names might change. I don't think the positions are going to change unless something drastic happens in free agency.
And along with the 30 visits, they also have local day where everybody who attended college within a certain radius of the Dolphins facility can visit and do not count against the 30. Just two quick points that I would tell you from my end is if the Dolphins didn't take a running back in 2020 when they had 3 first-round picks and they had their choice of any running back on the board when they picked at 30 and didn't take any of them, and there were 5 of them that year went in the first 2 rounds: CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Dillon, Cam Akers. I'm going to forget the other one. Can't remember who the other one was, but that was 5. The Dolphins didn't take any of those. I have an impossible time imagining them taking Genty at number 13. And I wrote a column discussing the quarterback issue, why, given the Dolphins' circumstances, to me, forget the first round. It makes no sense for the Dolphins to spend a draft pick on a quarterback this year. You're not getting, first of all, they're set at starter with Tua. They're committed to Tua for the next 2 years, and you're not getting a backup quarterback who's going to be dependable enough that quickly like that. And if you're looking for a future starter, looking around the NFL, 27 of 32 were drafted in the first or second round.
Yep.
And the 5 who weren't, a couple of those were like way back when. Kirk Cousins, and this is going back to he started at the beginning of last year, 2012. Russell Wilson was 2012 as well. So that doesn't happen. If there were a Joe Milton, a guy with freakish tools who maybe either is going to be a boom or bust, I'd say take a shot at him in the late rounds, but there doesn't appear to be that kind of guy. So to me, it's pointless to draft a quarterback. I don't care about this idea of you should take a quarterback every year. And then pointing out that what Kansas City did, that was great, except that Kansas City hadn't just given Alex Smith a huge contract. And then the thing with the Eagles, the same thing when they drafted Jalen Hurts when they had Carson Wentz. Well, Carson Wentz was at the end of his contract. They had not just given him a new big contract. This is what the Dolphins did when they committed to Tua. Not to say that it can't be done, but it's rather unique, and it's a poor allocation of resources to sign your contract, a $50 million deal, and then you pick a quarterback high in the draft right away.
They will not. They will not be the Atlanta Falcons with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix.
No, I don't see that happening.
No.
Berg, this very well might be the only time I speak to you before the big game. So it wouldn't be a podcast of any sort of quality or credibility whatsoever. Not that it is anyway, but even more so if I didn't ask you for your official Super Bowl 59 prediction.
I'm going with the champs. I don't know the score yet. I think it's going to be a close game, just like it was a couple of years ago. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. A couple of years ago was 38-35. Is that right? They're not. I don't think both teams. I don't think the losing team gets into the 30s. Winning team might, but I'm kind of thinking more 27-24. I've told you that I want to see more stories about these two defensive coordinators, Steve Spagnuolo and Vic Fangio. These guys are both Hall of Fame caliber assistant coaches, and I think the defensive battle, it gets so overshadowed by quarterback in today's NFL, but this defensive battle is going to be something to watch.
Okay. I'm reserving mine for later in the week. I hate yours. No, I hate. I hate if you're right. I mean, I have buddies who cover both teams. I have some friends who actually work for the Eagles, so we'll be pulling for them probably more so than I would for the Chiefs.
Let me say this, Poop, because I think we've discussed this. I love dynasties because I think dynasties draw in, right. They draw in the casual fan. They give everybody somebody to love or hate. And I'm not a fan of a separate team wins for 5 straight years. Give me a dynasty. Because we're gonna in 10 years we're gonna be glad we saw Mahomes and Chris Jones and Andy Reid and all these people. It's special. It's very special. I know you can get sick of it, but it's very. You were there like 3 years ago, but it's very special. I love dynasties.
No, and that's like, but here's the thing is we had like the Chiefs. We've gone from one dynasty to another. I mean, again, I'm gonna throw this stat again here. Not since 2010 has there been an AFC Championship game without the Chiefs or the Patriots. I mean, gee, and I say that, of course, growing up in Montreal in the 70s, I loved the Canadians, like owning the NHL during those years. That was great. And I was a Showtime Lakers fan. I loved the 80s and the Lakers dominating. But unless you're a fan of that team, I think I would prefer a different champion every year for 10 years than always. And it's not just like even like if they three-peat and then next year let somebody else play for the AFC Championship game. I'll make that deal right now. Is that okay, Chiefs? Take the damn Super Bowl title and then get the hell away next year. Let somebody else go play for it.
The only thing that could make this Chiefs dynasty better would be if they had a principal rival. If this was like Lakers Celtics of the 80s. I love a great back and forth. Foreman, Frazier, Ali. Like if this was Mahomes versus Brady every year.
Wouldn't Buffalo fit though? Buffalo's kind of
they haven't won a title though. They haven't been to a Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
But Lakers and Celtics kind of went back and forth. I would love to see, just something like that. I guess we haven't in pro sports. We probably haven't had that in a while because Alabama football didn't have anybody. The Spurs, I don't think they didn't really have anybody. The Patriots haven't. The Chiefs haven't. I'm just going off the top of my head here. But I love if there's a just two teams constant. Yeah, that's fun. That's more fun, I would say.
Okay, fair enough. He is Chris Perkins, South Florida Sun Sentinel. Check out his work at sunsentinel.com, shockingly enough. Perk, as always, my friend, thank you very much. Gang, please like, subscribe. Be back here on Wednesday unless there's major Dolphins news that breaks Tuesday, in which case we'll be back Tuesday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks, everyone.